Hello everyone and welcome to Rob's Rogues and the BatmanUniverse.net. Today we're taking a look at a very cool piece and one that I have been eagerly waiting for a very, very long time. I think I've had this on pre-order since March of the beginning of this year, so I'll have to double check. It could be longer than that. But anyway, we're taking a look at the DC Collectibles Batman Black and White 2nd Edition Dick Grayson as Batman by Jock. Jock being the artist that they took the designs from Scott Snyder's first writing effort on Batman when Dick Grayson was Batman, and a really, really good story. And it's actually kind of in the top 5 best Batman stories ever told right now, or at least the top 10, depending on whose list it is and everything. Like I said, this is the 2nd edition. Pardon me. The only way I can kind of tell that right now is from the oval bat symbol right here on his chest. They decided to change that part of it, maybe just to denote that it's a 2nd edition. If it was me, I might have changed the base where it's half black, half white, but I'm okay with the change, and I'll explain in a little bit once we get into the box of why I like this over the 1st edition. This is right out of the comics. They sculpted this very well. It is sculpted by Michael Lasco, or Lasco if I'm saying that correct. So sorry, Michael, if I'm wrong. So yeah, we can see it here on the side. Just a beautiful piece. I cannot wait to take a look at this. And here are the other figures that I believe are currently out at the moment. We have Batman designed by Brian Hitch, and then Batman based on the artwork created by, Michael Mangiola, which he has very stylized art. So this Batman Black and White series has gone on for quite a while. And there's a really cool beauty shot on the side of the box. It does say that the statue measures at 9 inches high. So I cannot wait to get this out. I don't know how many of the Batman Black and White statues I'm going to plan on picking up. Of course, being a Robin fan, and it's Dick Grayson in the bat suit, which kind of leads to why I picked him up. So I can't wait to get this out. Enough rambling. Let's get this thing out of package. We will be right back. Wow, I am blown away, stunned, in awe. What other adjectives you can use to describe this statue? Wow, I think it's just the simplest way I can say it. I still really think that this particular statue in the line is probably one of the most dynamic and has one of the most kinetic energy captured into it. I know there's some really great ones in the line, but they really captured the grace and just the movement and the carefreeness, if that's even a word, it is since I just said it, of Dick Grayson being Batman. You don't see Batman doing this type of a pose generally. With his arms out. It's very much an acrobatic or a trapeze type of a pose that Dick Grayson has here as he's just leapt off the top of a building. Now, I'm going to have to go back and check, but I do think that Dick Grayson's cowl, his ears were shorter than Bruce's were traditionally. I think that was the other defining feature along with his utility belt. Now, because of the way he is sculpted, and I have yet to get a rotating table, I want to be able to show more of the statue, so I may have to do some of this hands-free, and the underwork or the bottom side of the statue where we see the oval and the utility belt is actually it's definitely underneath the statue, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of maneuvering to kind of get in tight so you can see all of the features of the statue. I think the comic image, depending on where I edit this video at, I believe the image is drawn from here, if I remember correctly. Hopefully I get that right. But just the detail in this Man, I could totally see me sinking some money into this if there were Robin statues. I think we are getting a Robin statue finally. So I thought it was kind of fitting that this being Dick Grayson's 75th anniversary this year, that they were re-releasing this statue, and I think it's great. Even if you're like, well, I'm not really collecting Dick Grayson Batman, it's just a great Batman statue in general. I don't know how often we've ever seen images like this, or even a statue that just has this kind of movement, and you can see the bat rope here as it's kind of winding between his hands and coming out from his utility belt on the other side, which we'll get a close-up here. It's coming out from the utility belt, around back behind the cape, through one hand, through the other, and then up over the back of the cape, and we can see the batarang up here at the top. Just very, very cool. So bear with me, let me reposition the camera a little bit, and we'll get a closer look at the second edition of the black and white Jock Batman Dick Grayson statue. We'll be right back. All right, bear with me as I'm going handheld here, but this statue just does not disappoint at all. The face is absolutely beautiful. They've got the lines and the wrinkles in the cowl there. You can see kind of the slits in the eye. There is the oval on the bat chest, which that's the one thing they decided to change. Usually on a second edition of a statue, they'll make a slight change somewhere. I actually think Dick's bat suit should have had the oval, the classic 1970s bat logo on it to really distinguish it to being Dick Grayson. Because the way some artists would draw Dick Grayson as Batman, it was kind of hard to tell that if it was Dick Grayson or if it was Bruce, because he was wearing the same bat suit. And in Judd Winnick's comic Batman Reborn, he had wrote lines of dialogue in there that Dick wanted. He didn't want to be wearing Bruce's bat suit. He wanted to be wearing something different that was his own. He thought the mantle of Batman was going to be too heavy to carry. So if he was honoring Batman by looking like him, but it wasn't exactly Batman's costume, Bruce's costume, he thought he could carry the mantle easier. The other thing that denotes Dick Grayson's costume are the two spikes on his gauntlet. Instead of having three, he had two. And the reason he had two was he didn't think he quite lived up to the third spike, which I thought was just a cool analogy that was stated in the book. But you could see the way the wire is wrapped around the hand there. Just, wow, this is so cool. I don't know how much intelligent talking I'm going to have to be done here. The detail on this, I've watched a lot of Stu's reviews on the Man of Steel line and have always wanted to get one of these. And the first edition of this Batman statue is just really crazy expensive, and rightfully so. It's just done fantastic. There's what I was talking about earlier, where the bat rope is coming right out from his belt. And that was the other thing. The belt is designed a little different. Now, I'm going to try something to see how smart my camera is. I'm going to turn the camera upside down and see if I can get a right side view with it. No, of course it writes itself out. Smart camera. So what I'll have to do is turn the statue. Oh, bear with me. Here we go. I bet Stu is just going, oh, Rob, be careful. Okay, I've got him resting now, so he's not being suspended in the air. But there is the belt where he had the Batman logo in the middle of his belt, so we can see the rest of the underside of the statue here. Just very cool. And sometimes with statues like this, or just different things, they may not put as much detail into the underside of the statue, knowing that you're not going to see it very well. And I am happy that DC Collectibles does not chintz out on these at all. Very, very cool. There's the manufacturing information on there. So this is maybe where I would have put like second edition. So you could have kept the shot of Dick Grayson Batman coming towards us. Some little plastic is still styrofoam on the head, it looks like. It's a little tiny scratch. But very, very cool. This is what I was talking about in the base, that I'll have to take a look, and maybe this is reversed from the first edition. I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to take a look. If it's not, maybe I would have done this too. Instead of maybe changing the bat logo on the chest, they could have changed the base. But again, I'm happy with the change of a logo, because that's what I would have done if I was Scott Snyder and Jock in the first place, was to give Dick Grayson the classic 70s logo, because I think it just would have fit in with Dick Grayson's character. That's the logo that Batman was prominently wearing. I know in the early stages he had the classic bat logo, but for Dick's latter time as Robin, Batman had switched over to the oval, and I think that kind of, it would have represented the Robin logo a little bit too, that his was yellow with a black R and Bruce's was yellow with a black bat. So maybe I'm reading too much into it, but that's what I would have done. So let me give some final thoughts on this statue, and I could talk about the Black Mirror story with Scott Snyder and the Long Shadows story, which I'm currently reading by Judd Winnick, which is actually the very first Dick Grayson Batman story. It's right after the battle for the cowl. So we'll be right back in just a second. All right, final thoughts on this guy. Absolutely fantastic. Like I said, it has just been released, so you should be able to find this in your local comic shops. I know the first edition went by very, very fast, and because of that, it warranted the second edition of the statue. So if you missed out on the first edition like I did, go pick this up, especially if you're a Dick Grayson fan, and one of the first statues of Dick Grayson as Batman, I believe there is a Patrick Gleason statue of Dick Grayson as Batman, but I'm not sure if it came out before or after this statue, but there is one other one. But there aren't too many products of Dick Grayson as Batman, and I gotta say, hands down, this is by far one of the single best pieces of Dick Grayson as Batman that I've ever seen. I am so glad to have this statue, and it's fitting that it came out this year in the 75th anniversary of Dick Grayson and his second time as Batman, the first time being the Prodigal storyline, which takes place right after the events of Nightfall. So today, let's try that again. So today we've been taking a look at the Batman Black and White second edition of Dick Grayson as Batman by Jock. And as always, this is Rob for Rob's Rogues and the BatmanUniverse.net signing off, saying we will see you guys next time.